Bonding. The octet rule, proposed by Lewis and Cassell, explains the stability of the noble gas elements. 8 electrons in the outer shell results in an element with chemical stability. Helium, which is an exception for dot notation and the octet rule, has a full outer shell in the 1s configuration with only 2 electrons. The Lewis structures, also called electron dot notation, is a simplified way to illustrate the outer shell electrons, which are involved in chemical reactions. Protons and neutrons are not involved in chemical reactions. Ionic bonding. According to the octet rule, atoms interact through rearrangement of outer shell electrons. Note, sometimes inner shell d or f electrons will form bonds, leading to elements with multiple oxidation states like chromium or iron. Ionic bonds occur when electrons from one element transfer to another element, forming ions or charged particles. Elements donating electrons to another element form positive ions called cations because there are more protons in the nucleus than electrons in the electron cloud. Protons and neutrons are not involved in the chemical reaction. The number of protons in an element does not change in a chemical reaction. Elements accepting electrons from another element form negative ions called anions, because there are less protons in the nucleus than electrons in the electron cloud. A way to remember the difference between cations and anions is to note you must cross the T, a plus sign, to make the word cation, which is a positive ion. Ionic bonds are attractive forces between charged particles, cations and anions. Metals tend to lose electrons because there is usually only 1 or 2 electrons in the outer shell. They form cations, positive ions. Nonmetals tend to gain electrons since there are 4 or more electrons in the outer shell. They form anions, negative ions. Metalloids usually have 3 to 5 electrons in the outer shell. Sometimes metalloids gain electrons and sometimes metalloids lose electrons. Ionic bonds occur frequently between elements in groups 1 and 2 with elements in groups 16 and 17. Ionic bonds occur between transition metals and intertransition elements with elements in groups 16 and 17.